And welcome back to another episode of Live here on Keystroke Medium. I am Josh Hayes, here as always with Chuck Manley and Scott Moon. It's kind of flipped from last week where Chuck is on top and Scott's on bottom.
Chuck's on top.
We're actually running a bet to see how long Chuck will actually last.
It's always beards on top.
Not long.
Yeah.
It's always beards on top. I don't really get it.
Yeah, you need to get with the game, Scott.
It's a beard domination.
We're actually, it's going to be an interesting night tonight because we're running two tests. We're running one to see how long it takes for Bill to get a Chuck meme, and then two we're going to see how long my camera stays on. I've finagled my setup to do some streaming, so now I am streaming off my PC and not my Mac. And the camera setup is not exactly the same on the PC as it is on the Mac. So I'm not exactly sure how long we got. And I had to finagle my sound, which I was showing Chuck, and here I'll show you guys too. Oh gosh.
No,
very confusing.
Don't fall.
I had to rework my sound, and now my camera's falling apart.
Good call. That was a great decision.
Yeah. I had to rework my sound to make it work. Also, I got a new fish tank, guys. Do you see this?
I do see the fish tank.
Fish tank is cool.
I don't have any fish in it yet. Oh, it's not focused. Okay,
It's not really a fish tank then, is it?
It's a tank of water.
It's a tank. It's a plastic plant tank.
It's the KSM fish tank of water.
It's with dreams
It's a
of
flooded
being
terrarium.
Yeah, flooded terrarium. That's right. So yeah, we'll see how well this show goes. Hopefully it's not a dumpster fire. It goes down in flaming history as the worst episode in season 5, which if it's the worst episode in season 5, I'm okay with that because we got like 51 episodes left. Hey everybody on the live chat, how are you guys doing?
Meme?
Do what?
Should I pose for a Chuck meme just to make Bill
pretend like
No, yeah, make pretend so we can get a Chuck meme.
I'm making notes from since we're gonna take a lot of notes out of the live chat this time. So
so definitely a note.
Oliviera is asking about dictation apps, so I'm gonna make a note on that.
Okay. This is the most serious episode of Keystroke Medium.
Very professional.
Okay,
very serious.
So you said, can I confess that a few minutes ago when you told me that you guys had decided to go back to basics, I thought you were fixing to fire me.
Trying to let you down. It's not
we're going
you.
back to basics. We're getting rid of you. It's just going to be me and Scott again.
Yeah.
It's not you. It's us.
It's us. Take your old ass out of here. We're sick of your shit.
I mean, it's not you, but it's you.
To be completely honest, the only thing that's keeping you on the show right now is the beard. I mean, that's pretty much facial hair is all.
Well, and the meme content. I mean, if we ever lose the meme content.
What about my Sherlockian pipe?
That's pretty good too. Matter of fact, you see your case is building up quite a bit because now we got Papa Chuck, we got pipes.
It's Papa Sherlock.
Sherlock, I like that.
It's not on there anymore, but William Tyler, I think, is it William Tyler? Tyler William? He was the first comment when I put up the show. It's not showing on my screen anymore because there's been so many. But congrats, get the golf clap of appreciation from Keystroke. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe to Keystroke Medium if you have not already and you're joining us for the first time. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit that little ding, the bell, because that helps us grow our channel, and you will never miss an episode because you'll get notified when we go live. If you're listening on the live stream, it's youtube.com/Keystroke Medium. And we're right there every Monday night. This is the last night we're going to be doing 8:15. We're going to go back to 8 p.m. proper because the daughter does not like basketball. Not having it.
Smart kid. And anyway, smart kid.
Yeah. So welcome everybody in the live chat that's here. Lou, Drew, William Tyler Davis, Jay Oliviera. Is that Oliviera? I'm just messing with you. He sent me 2 messages now, and he recorded how he says his name. It's Oliviera. And Kronos is here. Kara McClellan's here. Rick Partlow, as always. I saw Lauren
earlier. If you can figure out to say Vita Hanjaya, then you should be able to really.
Yuda Hanjaya Vijay Rata is way
go.
easier than Olivia. Olivier. Also, Drew Rivera's in the house, or Avery. Dean Floyd. J.R. Hanley's here. Look at that. He showed up on time.
What?
Check it
All I
out.
had to do is start late.
Corvo is here. And we've got a lot of people here tonight. Brent Gasky. I don't think we've seen you on the show. What's up? He's been loving the podcast. Nice to see you. Well, thank you for coming and hanging out with us this Monday night. Kayleen's here. Super serious.
Super serious. Probably everybody should stop right now and go leave a review for the Writing Dream.
That's true. If you guys didn't know, we published our first nonfiction book last week. Lauren wrote The Writing Dream and How to Make It Happily Ever After. It's on sale for on ebook right now. Paperback should be done next week on Amazon. And we were number 2 in the authorship category for a while. I haven't checked it today to see where we were at. But Lauren did a superb job putting the book together. And listen, if you can write a book with Scott and I, and keep us on track and make like beat us with sticks to get us to make sure,
like, hey, can you add this one little thing 6.5 weeks later?
Yeah, it's like what I always tell my wife when she asks me to do stuff. I'm like, listen, you just have to tell me one time. You don't have to remind me every 6 months. Like, just tell me one time and I'll get it done. And Lou Holston says he's 40% into the new book. Great stuff so far. He also says he loves the editor's footnotes. Funny story about the editor's footnotes is that Ellen Campbell edited it. And when she edits, if you've ever had an Ellen Campbell edit, let me tell you, you are in for a treat if you ever get one, because not only does she fix your grammar and make your book better, but she also just trashes your soul while she does it, and she'll in a very nice way, and she'll leave these great comments that are extremely funny. And so she left these comments in the book that Lauren thought really kind of made it our book and made it a great Keystroke book because of Ellen's comments. So we left those in.
Because she knows everybody that's involved with it, and so she's really good at keeping your voice, which sounds, because like we were talking about it today. She did an edit for me on a newsletter I was working on, and it came back, and I was like, there's so many changes. Is this even going to sound like me? And I'm like, that sounds more like me than I sound like me. That's really good.
That's awesome.
But you got to know you're working with. Good stuff.
Well, let's talk about what we've been up to this week before we dive into our topic, which is going to be audience participation today. So if you're in the live chat, then you better be ready to work. Chuck, what have you been up to this week, man? I saw you had tea or coffee with Ellen.
Yeah, I had Ellen and I met for coffee this afternoon downtown. Just been a while since we did that. Since we're both kind of shut-ins at the house, we kind of decided maybe we needed to try and get out and be part of humanity once in a while. Indeed. So but yeah, we walked around downtown, chit-chatted. She told me all you and Scott's deep dark secrets, and
oh god,
I'm not going to say much else because she might poison my coffee.
She was probably talking about Top Golf.
Aside from that, I've been we actually did talk about Top Golf. Drunk Scott and Talk Golf. And
I love Top Golf.
Talking to police officers in Las Vegas.
Oh yeah, we did run into some
cops.
That's
right. We did do that. We did do that.
Great story.
Officer!
I think it wasn't so much she was trying to tell all your deep dark secrets. I think she was trying to convince me to really make a diligent effort to come to Vegas next year so that I could see all this firsthand. Aside from that, trying to get this thing done for Athon, the Jack Dark book, and I had some computer issues today and lost like 1,000 words, which it's not that much, but it's just.
You should probably have a moment of silence.
Silence for Papa Chuck's lost words.
I'll knock them out in the morning. No big deal. But that's pretty much been it. Just usual.
What about you, Scott?
Oh God, I knew I was going to go next. No, big news for me actually at work. It's very exciting. Probably the most exciting thing that's happened to me in a good time is that I'm getting fired from being the inventory sergeant. So actually not fired. Yeah, not fired so much, but I came in and so there's a newer sergeant, because like I'm pretty senior in the sergeants, and every time I complain about that particular aspect of my job, they're like, why don't you dump it off on one of the new guys? I'm like, I can't do that. That's a dick thing to do. but somebody else, others supervision above us, Volin told somebody to do it, and that person actually wanted kind of to do it, I think, a little bit, and then a second sergeant. So they took my job, they divided it in half and gave it to 2 other people. And if that actually goes through, then I will be a much happier person going to work. So not so much about writing, but boy, it definitely clears up a lot of mental space when something that's been bothering you about your work or whatever is kind of fixed. I finally hit my stride with writing. I've done 3,000 plus words for the last 4 days in a row. I broke 5,000 today for the first time in a long time.
Nice.
And the thing is it wasn't easy, but it felt good. Like some days you just write and the words come good, but some days you might get your word count, but it's like just beating yourself to death. And you're like, I can't do this every day.
Right.
But when it goes where it's reasonably doable, then I feel pretty good about it. I like that a lot. I guess we're buying a Peloton bike. So I'll let you know how that goes. That's pretty interesting. It's basically a bike you can live stream classes with or something. So we'll see. And it's the main thing about that.
Isn't that the bike that had some kind of weird commercial where they had some fit chick that was on the bike, and there was like a big thing about they didn't like that this fit chick was riding a bike or fit woman?
Well, since I started looking at them, I've got like 13 different Facebook ads in my feed. So there's all kinds of people using the bikes. But one of the big things is since I get up so early, it's really, really quiet. So I can get up, ride it inside the house without freezing to death, and get a little bit of exercise, get my head clear, do some riding, go to work. So I'm excited about that.
Nice.
I'm trying to think of what else. I got some Tom Edwards concept designs back for some mechs I'm going to use. I think I was going to use them for Shorty, but I think I'm going to use them for Blue Sun Armada series I've been working on sometime later this year. And that's really cool just because it's something he doesn't normally do. So I was kind of excited to see where that would go. I think it'll be neat.
Very cool.
That's yeah. So
I was looking up the Peloton bike controversy. It was being hailed as sexist and dystopian. Apparently, this guy shouldn't have got his very fit and attractive wife a Peloton bike because she didn't need it, and people got mad.
That's fucking what a horrible human being he is.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. And like so that's a good point. Somebody you could just get a bike and then subscribe to the videos and do them live. That's good too. But a bike's
I think it's funny that people because my wife saw that. My wife's a gym freak, and she's in shape, and everybody always tells her, like, oh, how do you stay in shape, or she goes, I can't eat the pizza, and people will go, oh, you could afford to eat some pizza, look at you. And she's like, well, do you know how hard I work to stay in this? I mean, it's not easy. And she has to do a lot of work and go to the gym every day. And
the older you get, the harder it is.
Yeah. So, I mean, maybe she wanted the bike, and her husband was like, oh, she wanted the bike, I'll do that.
We spend a ridiculous amount of money on fitness equipment. And for a while, I used to always, if I wasn't using it, get rid of it. But we just kind of, to me, that's, except for like family necessary stuff, household stuff, and work and writing, the only thing I do is fitness. So I don't, like I have quite a bit of stuff in my garage, but I have friends who have boats and RVs, and I guarantee they spend 10 times as much on the RV they use twice a year as I do on my fitness stuff. So I don't feel bad about buying the Peloton bike, Or the guys at work who have a $65,000 pickup truck, because you can't apparently buy a pickup truck for under $40,000 if you want to buy one new.
Yeah, it's super hard.
I don't have a pickup truck, but I got a bike. Anyway, that's what I'm doing. What are you doing, Josh?
I've
fish tanks and go fishing them.
I got a fish tank. I had. If you go back and you look, this is actually the beginning of season 5 is now taking us full circle in Keystroke Medium, because if you go back and look at the very first episodes, which don't go back and look at the very first episodes of Keystroke Medium, you will see that I have a huge fish tank behind me, and it's some of those shots we did on Blab, but the fish tank was there, and I really love having a fish tank. And for some reason or another, I had kids and time went into the crapper. I had to get rid of it. I didn't have time to take care of it, but I miss having the fish tank because it's very peaceful. And so I got a little one. So it's like a 7-gallon fish tank. I'll have 2 or 3 or 4 fish in it. I'm gonna lift it up a little bit so it's more eye level. And right now I'm just letting the water cycle. But I love having fish, especially when I write. I can just look over and like, oh, your life is so nice. And I'm just gonna mess it up.
It'd be neat if they would come to the glass during the show and just like be right there.
Yeah, they'll come over and watch.
JR wants to know if there are dolls in the fish tank.
There is a there is a dragon in the fish tank right here. Yeah. It's a Chinese dragon. You probably can't see it; it's too far away. But I'll do a little tour of my office this week because I've set it up differently now. I'll give everybody a tour. And then today, I got more words today in a single day than I have in almost 2 months.
How'd you do that?
And I'm glad you asked that, Scott. How'd I do that? I'm glad you asked.
Inquiring mind.
So I've been doing. I got the PC for 2 reasons. I've said before. One, to do a little bit of gaming, and the other one to do Dragon dictation. And the transcription on Dragon is phenomenal. So what I do is, and what I have done today, is I have these Apple EarPods, and I guess you could do it with any headphone. And I have this app. Hold on, I gotta focus.
Yeah, I have that.
Almost had it right here.
You told me about that app when we watched.
Let's press record, and it's a iPhone app, and basically it's just that you can open it up and hit record, and it just starts recording. Well, the cool thing about this is it's super easy. Is you stop, and then you click on it, and I can send it right to Dropbox with like 3 clicks, and I can send it to my Dropbox folder, and then I can bring it up on my PC, and it transcribes relatively fast. It'll transcribe 800 words in about 5 minutes. Anyway, so I did that today. I did a couple different sessions and got about 3,200 words, way faster than I could have typed them. I still have to go back and do some cleanup. I was doing some work on a short story for.
Do you have to do the open quotation, speak all the punctuation, and it'll take all that as punctuation?
Yep, it'll take all of that. And the thing that I like about it is that. Some people don't like dictation because the words don't flow the same way. It takes a little bit of getting used to. And with the transcription, the voice to text, you look at the screen and then you see it and you don't like the way it looks. And you're like, I don't like the way it looks. And you do it again. With this, you can't see it. And so what I do is if I mess up, I just repeat it and then keep going. So you say, open quote, Josh, go over here and turn on the computer, comma, close quote, Josh said, period, new paragraph. And then, and when it brings it into the file, it'll look exactly like that. But it's way faster.
What's that app called again?
It's an iPhone app. I think it's on Android as well. Hold on, my face recognition.
I bought that app. You showed me that app when we watched. When we went to see.
Yeah, just press record. I think the app itself was like $2.99 or $4.99. But it ridiculously simple to do, and it uploads MP3 files, which Dragon will transcribe very easily. So I did that today on a couple different sessions and got 3,200 words, and I'm going to do it the rest of the week. I've got to finish this short story for the Secret Anthology and get it out this week, and then I'll be back to punching out words on Valor.
I can't wait for the anthology to come out, though. That's going to be cool.
Yeah, it's going to be super fun.
We can tell people about it.
Stuff. So before we get into the show topic proper, I want to do the show sponsor real quick, and then once we start rolling on the show sponsor, we don't have to stop and break our questions up. Hold on, I gotta open up this thing and then I go over here. and I go here. It's not the way it's supposed to look. It's so weird going from a Mac interface to a PC interface and looking at folders, and I'm like, I don't see it. I'm like, oh yeah, there it is. It's right there. It's right in front of my face. Is that it? Nope. I should have done this ahead of time, but I did not. Where? Oh, there it is. Got it. Okay, so I want you to do this, and I want you to go over here. I want you to do that, and go there. Okay, so share screen, and we're going to do this. Share. That's not right. Why are you not showing the... There we go. Okay. Our show sponsor today is The Writing Dream by Lauren Moore. And it's available on Amazon right now. It's KSM's first writing book and, nonfiction book about writing. And what we set out to do with this book is make it extremely relatable to new authors coming into indie publishing, to old authors trying to figure out new ways of doing things, but making it extremely relatable to anyone and everyone to pick it up and make it super easy to read and not make it super complicated. So that is what Lauren has done here. There are antidotes. Is that right? Antidotes from Scott and I and Lauren. Anecdotes. Man,
there you go. You got it.
Who's a professional writer in this place? About our day-to-days experiences and thoughts on different things. It's broken down into chapters, and then every chapter has exercises at the end of the chapter that we encourage people to do to kind of break out of their shell and do different things. So the blurb, which Ellen Campbell put together, it's a fantastic blurb, is as follows. Writing. Something you've always dreamed of doing, but there's just not enough time. Or maybe you've already written a book or 6, but they aren't doing well. With nearly 50 million books on Amazon today, what can you do to make your book stand out? From the popular podcast Keystroke Medium Live, Josh Hayes and Scott Moon and Lauren Moore pan the gold from hundreds of author interviews, anecdotes, tips, and advice from authors across the publishing spectrum and all over the globe. We've chosen the very best of it, time-tested and proven successful, backed up by our personal experience. Whether you can't find the time to write, you don't have a clue how to market, or you just need to fine-tune your process, there's something for you in this book of doom. That is Keystroke Medium's The Writing Dream and How to Make It Happily Ever After by Lauren Moore. I will put the link somehow in the comments.
It's actually a good starting point for what we're talking about today, because we want to talk about building a good foundation for what really matters and deal with some of that that's out there now. That's right.
Scott, if you will lead us into that discussion a little bit. I think I have a 3-year-old knocking on my door.
Oh God. Oh God. Nobody panic.
So Scott, all right, if we're talking about building the foundation of a good story, what's a solid starting point for you? Where do you?
Well, yeah. So let me just back up just a tiny bit, and that's exactly where I want to start. We talked about it because we were talking about kind of there's a feeling of frustration with a lot of writers, published and indie writers, about it's hard to get sales, it's hard to get visibility, it's hard to do that stuff. And Josh and I were talking about, well, what can we bring to the table? We're not Facebook marketing experts, this and that, but I think a lot of it all comes back to the foundation we talked about story and having a good story. And if you don't have that, then all of the Facebook ads in the world, it's not going to do any good, and you're just wasting your money. So we wanted to talk about what we care about is a good story. So for me, the foundation of a good story is, I think, an intriguing and fascinating setting where I would like to spend some time with characters that mean something to me. And usually that means, they have to be interesting. They have to be heroic. Doesn't have to be like physically heroic, but they have to be making some heroic, like they could be making heroic moral decisions or something interesting. And there has to be that tension that they're not going to make it to do whatever it is.
There's got to be
so basically good characters and a good antagonist, whether that antagonist is a character or the environment or some other antagonistic factor. What about you? What's your foundation, or where's your starting point for a good story?
It's different really for every story, and I think that's true for a lot of people, like what inspires the story and gets it going. But as far as making it a solid readable story goes, a lot of times for me it comes down to the characters. You want a relatable character with a strong voice, and that the reader can kind of get attached to. And a lot of times I think that if you can create a character that people really want to spend time with, they'll be a little more forgiving if like your setting's a little, loose or whatever. But all the elements of a story are important. But I always kind of try to focus on making my characters very, like when a reader reads one of my characters, I want them to think, oh yeah, I knew somebody who was kind of like that, whether it's good or bad or whatever, something they can recognize, latch onto, and relate to. And that, to me, that's one of the biggest elements of making of a strong story. Looking
at the live chat and listening to you, I think we're probably all in agreement here that character reigns supreme. I mean, we could argue the point against that, but how do we do that?
I think that there's two. So I am also the character mindset that character makes the story, but also, and this is going to sound really wonky, but I think story makes the story.
Oh, sorry.
The combination of a good story and characters make a great story, because there are a lot of stories out there that aren't good stories. They're very boring, or they don't do anything to the characters.
Right.
So a good combination of a good story and good characters. Now, I guess it's subjective on what makes a great combination of story and character. But I think that if you have a good the difference between concept and story is something probably that we want to break down as well at some point. Right. And while I'm on this rant, in the live chat, and part of the reason we're doing this episode is to set up the at least the beginning half of season 5, so that we are going in the right direction, for you and for us as we're kind of breaking down story this season. If you guys have an issue or something that you are having problems on in making your stories better, or what's holding you back in your stories, or what you think your story is lacking, or what you have issues with in your story, whether it's dialogue or how deep to go into character or world building, or let us know in the live comments, and we're going to take notes. And we're going to kind of build our schedule off of tonight's episode, dependent on what you guys are talking about in the chat on what your guys' thoughts are and issues are with that. I think one of the things you have to look at is are you writing a story, or are you writing a concept? And you have to actually, break that down a little bit and say you have a good idea and a good concept for a story. How do you make that into a good story? And that might be something that we talk about this season. But definitely character. If you get into the book and you don't, it's kind of like the cold open to some movies or TV shows where they have taken this idea of starting in media res and just throwing you into the action. As a character is running away from explosions or gunshots, and they're like, this is really going to pull everyone into the show or the book. But why do we care? Well, we don't even know who this person is. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And
that
so
works with established series, I think.
yes.
Where you already know, you see James Bond getting shot at, you kind of get okay, that's James Bond and he's doing what he does. And
right.
But if it's your first time encountering that character, you're right. You're kind of like, who cares?
There's probably some devices, devices might be another one too to talk about, but devices to make you care quickly. Like in John Wick, you get right off the bat, his wife has died and somebody killed his dog. So you're like, well, you're automatically invested. And I'm not saying you should do that every time.
Yeah, don't kill dogs every time.
But there are things that get you invested right away. Like immediately establish your main character as the underdog, or immediately establish them as a hard bitten, things that do that. So what I put down as my notes here, difference between concept and story is one thing we can work on. And I'm going to put devices. We can go more into what I'm talking about with that, but what else? Where were you going with that?
No, I think that's story is kind of the crux of everything. And so I think to get in the mindset of having a good story, and everybody says this, is to do a lot of reading in the genre that you want to write in and be knowledgeable of how those stories work, because stories work differently. Romance works differently than horror. Mystery works differently than like a space opera. There's elements to a thriller that are not in a cozy mystery. There's things that
Sean Coyne calls those obligatory scenes. That if you don't have that type of scene, then it's not that in that genre.
This number one. Yeah, if you probably put him in a tree and then set the tree on fire.
Okay, so here's the thing. I think we're getting a little off in the weeds here.
That's where we live, Chuck.
I know, brother. So we keep throwing this word story around.
We need to define what that is.
Okay.
What are the basic elements of any story? I'm going to tell you what mine are.
Okay, go.
It comes down to what I call the 3 Ps. You got to have a person, you got to have a place, you got to have a problem. That's it. That's the beginning of any story. You got to have a character, a setting, and a plot. But a plot is essentially just a problem that the character has to deal with.
Yes.
And you could also say that those 3 things combined are going to be a concept.
I think you should put pipe in there, and then you can have the 4 Ps.
The 4 Ps. And a pipe for the character to bash the problem with.
Right.
But I think you start with those, and every story is going to have those. And then by fleshing out around those 3 things, you come up with story, because then you start bringing in things like pacing and details of the setting and the subplots. And, but those 3 things are going to be the foundation that I think any story you break down is built on.
Yes, right. I agree.
It has to be something, and this is going to sound super simplistic, but like I have up on my wall a list of things like that I took notes from. So what is a scene? So a scene is, I can't remember what book it's from, but it's on my wall. So a scene is where something happens, a scene is where something changes, and a scene is related to the central theme of the book. And I say that because a lot of stories that I get bored with is like nothing happens.
Yeah. Right.
Nothing's really happening. It's a day in the life. Who cares?
And that's dull. There's got to be tension. There's got to be something that challenges that character that the reader cares about. Even if it's just something as simple as, let's say it's a day in the life. He's getting out of bed in the morning, going to brush his teeth, do all this stuff. But then his wife gets mad at him for leaving the lid off the toothpaste or something like that. Some kind of something that challenges that character and makes the reader think, oh, are they going to break up? Is she just a bitch? Is he just an asshole? What's going on there? You gotta have that question, right. Kind of coming out of the gate that gets people's attention. It's even if you just have your characters, you say his eyes popped open and he didn't know where he was. That alone is like, there's a ton of questions there that people are going to go, oh, well, who is this guy? And why doesn't he know where he is? And where is he? And what's going on? And how did he get there? It's just, you've always got to have that question driving forward to keep the reader moving. If they can predict what's going to happen because they do it themselves every day, you're not really writing a story. You're just, I don't even know what that would be. reporting, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, and that's one of the things you have to look out for is if are you documenting case by case, like moment by moment, what's happening, because that's not telling a story, that's not entertaining, that's just writing a diary.
Right.
You have to make sure that you're being entertaining in your storytelling, and by entertaining, it's not funny haha, it's keeping people entertained and wanting to move forward. One of the live chat comments, and I've lost it, was talking about info dumping, or in that was one of their issues in telling their story, was getting info dumpy. It was, I think, the word they used. I'm trying to find the there it is.
There's the book, I believe it's Self-Editing for Fiction Writers by Remy and Brown. It talks about the difference between narrative summary and showing versus telling, and that there is a time to info dump if it's done artfully and in small chunks. And there's a time when you want narrative summary. Like the example used in the book was, if you're like say you're writing a sports novel or a sports movie, and they have 15 football games they're going to play, you're going to summarize some of those games. You don't have to tell everything about every game. And so that's a good time to use narrative summary. And in any story, there is a place for that. It's just when you don't know you're doing it and it's everywhere, that it gets really passive and dumb.
I found that what I try to do is, when I have an info dump like that I need to
put
do.
Rick's comment up on there. Sorry about info dump, but go ahead.
But what I think is a good approach is, if you can break the info that you're trying to convey into pieces and only give what is immediately relevant to the character and his immediate situation, and spread those out throughout the book. See what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, if he needs to know how to disarm this bomb or whatever, don't go in, just say he remembered from his training and blah, 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 how to da, 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 da. You see what I'm saying? And then later on, you can talk about the kind of bomb and how he learned. And, you can break that stuff up and sort of spread it through the book. And that's also a good way to give setting background too, without just like giving somebody the whole history of your setting in one chapter or something.
One of the interesting things I've ever heard about storytelling and editing is, if you can take something out of your book and it doesn't change the story, it doesn't need to be there. I don't think that necessarily is like a hard and fast rule, because there are certain things that I like in a book that, like you're saying, the world building
too far.
Yeah, the world building, setting or details. Some of those things are interesting and they're fun to tell. The what a space station looks like, or maybe why the space station is there, a paragraph on that will be fine. But when you get into
a lot of that genre dependent too.
Exactly. Yeah. But you wouldn't just start your story off naming the locations and just describing them ad nauseum before something happens. You're going to want to do it specific and purposefully, and say, if you're going to this space station or this castle or whatever you're going to, then that's the point in time where you would put in just enough that makes it a little interesting. But they don't. What's the thing that you always talk about, Scott, about the money?
The money.
The money. What's
Patrick
his name?
Rothfuss.
Yeah, he created an entire financial system for his books and then never used it. So he could understand the money, how the money worked.
He had like 300-year-old out of print coins that were only made on another continent from where his story happened, but he knew everything about it, but he said he never used any of it.
Right.
He said he used 4% of his world building in his story.
Yeah.
One of the issues that Jay says is, my biggest issue when it comes to story is that inside my head is a full-bodied story, but then I sit down to write it, it becomes a concept or maybe an elongated idea, if that makes sense. And I get it.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that you're misconstruing the story for the concept, and then you take that concept and you grow it from there. For instance, with Edge of Valor, my first Valor novel, the concept was, what happens when a squad of Marines is shot down and are stranded on an alien planet. That was the whole base concept for the book.
It's like your one sentence summary, your elevator pitch, your concept.
And then the novel, what happens in the novel grew from that concept, but the story itself didn't happen overnight. The concept did, and I let that concept
so you had a concept, simmer. But then you worked on different ways to tell the story.
Right.
So your concept and then how to tell it became the story, because then you went through all your unrelated narrative and the different viewpoints and the investigation and stuff. But that didn't come first. You didn't sit down, and maybe you could, but you didn't sit down and say, I'd really like to write a story from an unrelated narrative where they're going to do these series of interviews.
Right. So when it comes to, we'll have to do an episode maybe on kind of growing the concept to full story. And I know we've talked about it before, but I think that is, I have that issue too, where I'm like, oh, that would be a great scene, but how do I build a story out of that? And actually, Scott and I have done one of his Dark Landing books. We did a whole video on, where we started with the concept of what he wanted, and it grew from a very small outline. We spent about an hour kind of drawing out on a board what happened
with the Facebook page. And
I'll find it. I'll find it, or Scott will find it, and we'll share it in the group, because it was a pretty fun exercise to do. Let's see. Rick says his biggest issue is making subplots or B plots interesting enough for people not to lose interest. There's something to be said about creating subplots for the sake of creating subplots. My goal with a subplot is to always build and accentuate the main plot. I don't know if that's the right word.
Right.
But I want to give something more to the main plot that I can only do with a subplot. So, for instance, in the Valor books, well, it's in the book that I'm working on now, Enemy of Valor, Rick, is there is two things going on at once usually that happens, but there's a criminal investigation side and then a small team military operations side of the book that are happening side by side and kind of overlapping each other. They kind of support each other, but they're both subplots of the main plot, and those both go to build what's happening in the main plot. And I do that by running two subplots side by side, and the main plot is just there. And I don't ever try to create a subplot just for the sake of having one, because you can kind of get lost in the weeds and kind of go off on a kind of like a Stephen King book where you go off. That's and you're 300 pages into a subplot where they were supposed to be going over here, and then they go off and they hang out with the Wolves of the Kala for 400 pages. They throw plates at each other. That whole, like the song of Susanna, and if you ever want to like look into subplots, the Song of Susanna and the Wolves of the Kala in the Dark Tower series, both of those novels are essentially very long subplots to the Dark Tower that you can basically skip and you won't miss a thing.
The Wolves of the Kala was my favorite one in the whole series.
Really?
By a long shot. That's the one where they're kind of like doing the cowboy stuff back when he was growing up, right? With Court. Yeah, that was my favorite one.
No. That's Wizard and Glass.
No.
Yeah. What? The Wolves of the Kala is the second to last book where they're fighting off the I don't remember who, but they're throwing plates at their enemies. The one where he goes back and he's on he's in the Western deal and they're talking about the Finny, and it's when what's her name dies and all that stuff. That's Wizard and Glass.
With Court training him and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
my favorite. Okay, Wizard and Glass my favorite. I stand corrected.
Yeah. But yeah, subplots can very easily, if they don't directly tie to your main plot, they can very easily bog you down, and then yes, they can distract from the main point of the book. And it's not really necessary. Like, if you don't need to have a subplot in your book, you don't need to. Like, Scott, how many subplots do you roll in Reaper books?
Well, that's interesting because for me, I have much fewer subplots in the Reaper books because it is first person.
Right.
It's hard to do a subplot if it's first person.
Yeah.
Or if you're doing third person, but like Harry Potter is basically third person, but it's a strict one character narrative.
Yeah.
One point of view.
Right.
Then it's really difficult to do lots of subplots. And so I have some books like my SMC Marauders books that has lots of different characters and there's just like it's just a trillion subplots. They're everywhere. and I had a great time writing it, but I God help the person that tries to read it because there's a lot of shit going on.
The tricky thing that you have to remember about subplots is that they are still plots. And they still follow the same rules. What, in my opinion, the way you keep them from becoming bigger than the main plot is you just lower the stakes. I mean, a subplot could be like in the thing I was saying a minute ago about the guy's wife getting mad at him. He may walk out the door and get involved in a bank robbery or something.
Yeah.
There's still that unanswered question about him and his wife's relationship. That could be a subplot. It doesn't have to be earth shattering and it doesn't have to overshadow the larger thread of the bigger plot, but it's something to kind of keep the reader. It's just one more question to keep the reader going through the marshy middle of the book. And when things slow down a little bit, and I think there has to be that rising tension, the resolution, all the things that apply to a regular plot apply to a subplot. I just think on a much smaller scale with lower stakes.
I think sometimes the subplots become necessary because, they are necessary support of the main plot sometimes. And sometimes they become necessary because
You lost Josh.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Because sometimes you have characters that are just so charismatic or powerful or popular that sometimes a very awesome side character will basically demand their own plot.
Yeah.
Especially if you move them away from the main character. And it's going to become a subplot because people are like, well, what happened to so-and-so? Well, you have to tell their story because the readers love that because that character is connected. So that's a good reason to have a subplot, in my opinion.
I was thinking about one of Stephen King's books today. It was the follow. I can't remember the name of it. It was the follow-up to Mr. Mercedes. Mm-hmm. And he had the main plot with the main character and all that going, but he also had a whole other plot going with the bad guy. And it's basically the bad guy's backstory and what's going on with him and where he comes. And at the very end of the book, the two finally meet and they have no clue who each other are. But because he had that whole other plot going with the villain, the reader, in my opinion, the reader would have a more intense experience simply because they know both characters so well at that point,
Yeah.
And I don't know if you would call that a subplot or just a side plot because it was kind of
parallel plot.
It was kind of integral to the story, but at the same time, it wasn't about necessarily the main guy. So, that's something.
Do they both link into the same theme? Concept.
Yeah. I mean, it all played up nicely at the end together. So,
I like I said, I think if there's something that you need to do in your story and conveying it through a subplot is the way to do it, I'd definitely do it. But if you're writing a subplot because let's say you found a character
and somebody told you subplots are great
and you think that you need, it's kind of like having a prologue or not having a prologue. People hate prologues or people love having prologues. Like it's up to you as long as it makes the story better. Which kind of comes to Dean Floyd's question he had a little bit ago about where's the intersection for writing a good story and writing a good story series that will make you money. They are sadly not the same thing.
Absolutely true.
Which is true to a point. But Scott and I were talking about this earlier, and I think that there is some kind of there's a misconception. It's not really a misconception. It's just it's a way people look at the indie market as a whole and then writing as a whole. And they think if your story doesn't make you a six-figure author, then it was a bad story. And I think that's not a legitimate benchmark to look at for a good story. There's a lot of good stories out there that don't make any money. Whether it's that they didn't get the right marketing behind it, or they didn't have the reader base to catch on, or whatever. There's a lot of things that go on to why a story makes money or why. I mean, look at 50 Shades of Grey. You know, it's a horrible, horrible story. It was written worse, and it made $1 billion. So
there's two parts to that. We talked about that. So it's important to see both sides of this coin. Is like, one, you can write a brilliant story and not make any money because you don't know marketing.
Right.
But what is more dangerous financially to people I see that are starting, because I've done the same thing, is people get on all the marketing stuff and they spend all the money for marketing, but they haven't done the story. And now you're just literally flushing your money down the toilet. So you have to write the story. It's got to be good. And they always say, all the books say, start with a great story, then they go on to the other stuff. But writing the story is actually the hardest part.
Yeah.
I think
the most complex part.
Yeah, that's 100% correct. I think it comes down to what you can control and what you can't. Because we are examples, I think. I know I am, of people who have tried their best to learn the business side and done what they needed to get it in front of people. But there is absolutely no guarantee any of that is going to catch the right set of eyes.
Right. Either way, like if you do it,
control is how good a story you write. You know, that's that. And if you've got that, the odds of you catching the right set of eyes go up exponentially. Because if you do the marketing right, but still write a crap book nobody wants to read, you know, you've got a DeLorean.
You might be able to push a crap book. You might be able to push a crappy book and make some money, but it's not going to be long-term money.
You're not going to have a long tail on that.
It sucks, and then it'll die.
Yeah.
And all you spent in time you could have been spent on writing what you really wanted to write in the first place.
Right.
No, I agree, and I think one of the reasons we're wanting to focus on story, and I think we can focus a little bit on some mechanics this season too. We've had a lot of talk about dictation right at the beginning of the program, and who was it that asked? Brent asked about do you use the home edition or the professional? I got the professional edition. I'm not sure what the difference is between the home and the professional edition. But
I used the home for years, and now I have the professional just because I think I couldn't find the home edition when I clicked the button. But
right.
Yeah. I think might give you more computers you can put it on or something. It's not a big deal.
I got a herd of elephants run on the floor above me. So yeah, we'll talk a lot about the process of story and also how to actually physically write it. We've had some of those shows in the past. I don't think that it's bad of us to kind of revisit some of those things, especially since it's been a couple of years since we have, and there's a lot more viewers to the show. We'll talk about process
about it all the time, so we can talk about it.
Yeah. I think one of the first things you need to iron out, and maybe that's what we can focus on, is concept to idea, and we can kind of set up some schedule around that. I've got a couple notes I've written down for some of the episodes that are going to come this season. I think that when you come into this, and I've had some issues with it too this year, when you come into writing, there are so many things out there right now that are focused on making you a six-figure author, or mastering marketing, or mastering this type of business aspect of writing. And I don't want to do that this season. I want to focus on actually writing good stories, because I think that's what resonates with the readers. And I think regardless of what you do with your marketing, writing a good story is the number one priority of all the writers. Night, Rick. See you later, buddy.
It's the most rewarding.
And it's the most rewarding. And honestly, I think the three people here in the video window and then everybody in the live chat will agree with me. Even if they didn't get paid to write, they'd probably still be writing.
I would, for sure. I did it for a long time before I made money.
Yeah. And I think that enjoying the process of writing is actually more important than the financial reward of getting a book out there and selling it and making money, which, don't get me wrong, that's awesome. And I'm blessed to be able to sell books and make money. But I think actually writing great stories is the number one priority, or should be the number one priority of everybody. So I think the season is going to be really good. I think it's going to be super fun. There's a lot of engagement that we've been having over the last couple of weeks with everybody here in the live chat and even on the Facebook group too. So there we go. Lou says professional lets you transcribe. And it does, and apparently the home edition does not transcribe for you. So
is that a Dragon?
I think, yeah, for Dragon. I think that's why I did buy the professionals. So that wanted the transcribing.
That's
thanks, Lou.
That's right.
How do you know which one you have?
If you want to do that, that's only if you want to use a recorder and then dump the audio file.
Yeah.
If you want to just go straight into the document, you don't need the professional.
Right.
I've got it. I just don't know which one I've got.
It should say.
All it says is Dragon Naturally Speaking.
I
don't know what that.
Let's see.
Anyway, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
The last thing I want to say on this whole topic of people of, whether you want to be six-figure or whatever thing is that, because I see a lot of frustration with writers, and it's always been a thing. But the other thing about it is that I think the element that people don't want to talk about, because it's not a nice thing for me to say, but basically it involves doing the work.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the people that come on and they're mad because the marketing didn't work. I'm like, did you spend 40 hours a week working on your craft and your story and your marketing? And if you didn't, then you're not working. I mean, if you were a truck driver, you couldn't work. Well, every 4.5 days, I do something. Well, if you were a truck driver, you have to drive the truck every day. You gotta drive, and this is a Stephen Pressfield quote, but he says, if you're a truck driver and your route is from Chicago to LA, you have to drive the truck all the way from Chicago to LA. You can't stop in the middle because you don't feel like driving through Denver.
Right.
And I think that art is important, but just doing the work is equally important if you want to be commercially successful. And anybody who is not putting in like a raw amount of work and is not getting the success they want, that's a big part of why. That's my opinion.
Well, you're absolutely right. And I think too,
because people spend so much time on social media, they think they're working. They're not working. They're doing social media.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Well, if you look at our Keystroke Rimo, which we're doing a Keystroke Medium January Word Challenge this month, and I think we'll probably keep it up. I think a lot of people are having fun with it. And we've got a lot of people doing it right now. You can see that people are putting in the work, and that's very encouraging to me. And a lot of people have said that they have found a lot of encouragement from seeing people put up the words. And I mean, look right now, Scott has several days of 4, 5, 6,000, but then he has a day of 68 words. And so you can see that, people, they have off days. Like you can see me, I have 6 days that I didn't write at all. But I still come back and try to put in the words. You have days where you have, 6,000 word days, 200 word days, and it doesn't matter as long as you're putting in the words. I don't know how many people we have participating right now in the challenge, but we have, as of right now on January 13th, the total written words for the Keystroke Medium group that are doing the challenge is 486,146 words in 13 days. So almost 500,000 words by the group in 13 days, which is phenomenal. I mean, I could not have imagined we would have done that many words in this short amount of time. Rick Partlow is killing it with 52,000 words. But there's so many people that are right there with him and, that are doing 30,000 words.
Supporting each other and giving each other a hard time. And it's just a big, giant accountability partner thing. I think it's awesome.
I mean, even Chuck has 923 words. So killing it.
923 days of writing for Chuck.
Guy Anthony DeMarco.
But I lost all of those today.
Yeah. Well, you can still count them. So Guy Anthony DeMarco, I just want to let everybody know, he felt bad and he felt he didn't want to hog the spotlight. But right now, Guy is sitting at 118,722 words for the month.
And it's the 13th.
And it's the 13th.
Yeah, he dropped out because he said he didn't want to.
That's freaking crazy, man. Crazy.
He's a writing machine, though, and I didn't realize he was that kind of a, because I guess he writes several pen names.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's going to work. But like he said, his situation is different. He doesn't. I think his kids are moved out.
Grown.
He's got time on his hands.
Like 12 hours a day just to produce some words.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wish Devin would let us put that picture up that he sent us in the messenger.
Because he posted on the group, Keystroke group.
So people go look at that because, he's one of the highest producers in the group, and he does most of that with a baby, literally in one arm,
in his lap.
Because that's not the first I'm typing with the baby on my lap picture that he's
right.
So it can be done.
He's got a house full of kids.
Oh yeah, they got it.
Doesn't he? He's got like 6 kids or something, right?
I think up to 6.
Yeah, he's
and
got
his car just got stolen, and I think he's had a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
For those of you that are just joining the show this week or just listening, if you would like to get in on the Keystroke Challenge, it's not too late. You can join whenever you want. The word goals are set entirely by you, and there's no winner or loser. It's all motivation for everyone that is involved. If you'd like to get your name on the list, send me an email at keystroke.medium at gmail.com, or if you're on Facebook, you can hit me up on Messenger and let me know, and I'll add you to the list, and you can partake. If we have enough response, then we'll do it again next year. All we got to do is copy and paste the sheet. So it's been great. And there's some comments on here. I didn't see these. Let's see. Richard Fox joined the list.
Oh my God. Did he really?
And and he says, I am only tracking my goals for the challenge period here. He says, I just finished editing 20,000 words, nothing written today, but I'll likely get around 1,000 before done after a break. Look at that. Edited 20,000 words. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
Yep.
Kevin McLaughlin says, so Guy Anthony says he removed it from the boards, and we talked about that. And then Kevin says, put it back. I was enjoying watching your efforts. If no one broke the 4-minute mile for the first time, no one else would have. We learn what is possible from those who excel. That's very true. Let's see. What JR write here? JR writes today, life hates me, but I will keep plugging away until the aliens come to bring me home. There you go. That's awesome. Nice. Lawrence says he'll participate next time, but he's editing. Oh yeah, editing is the word killer. So good times. All right, guys. We'll probably call it a show here, and man, it flew by. Felt like we haven't even brushed the surface. I've got 5 things written down on my list. I'll probably open up a post.
So read your list real quick.
So I've got subplot, character, concept to idea, writing a good story versus writing a story that sells, and dictation are the 5 things that I got down.
I wrote down dictation apps, difference between concept and story, devices, as in story devices, and then 3 Ps, which I think we should all move and vote to make them the 4 Ps. Person,
Agreed.
place, problem,
Motion
and pipe.
carried. Yes.
Something in the chat caught my eye. Somebody was talking about writing a location-driven story, and I wrote down location-driven story. And
Like Game of Thrones.
Yeah, but I think that can kind of tie into setting as protagonist and that kind of thing, and just what drives a plot forward. Is kind of would be something to discuss too. I think.
Yeah. The terrain, and I won't go long on this because I know we're done, but
no, you're good.
But in Game of Thrones, especially if you read the books, the terrain definitely drives the story, because there's lots of things that happen in the books, like they got to get through get past the twins where they have the bridges, and there's huge plot complications by the types, like the Red Wedding happened because it was basically a marriage to get the cooperation of these people so they could cross this river. So in that type of story, location can be very suspenseful or tension enhancing.
Yep. Sorry, I'm making a post on the Facebook group. What are your biggest setbacks? Is that right? Or challenges? Challenges when writing a story. Okay. I'm going to add character, and I'll add subplot, and then I'm going to leave it open so anybody can add to the poll, and whether it gets 1 vote or 2 or 3 or 18, we'll probably touch them all. So it's in the group right now. You can go there after the show and add your own to the list, and we will schedule our shows out accordingly to the list. Next week, we're going to be talking about scams, which isn't necessarily, doesn't have to do with story, but it is something that I think authors need to be aware of.
Author beware type of thing.
And so we're going to talk about that next week. And then after that, we will get on our story schedule and start lining that stuff out. If you are listening on the feed and you want to come check us out live, Monday nights, we're going to go back to 8 o'clock. So 8 o'clock Central, 9 Eastern on Mondays. On Thursdays, Lauren Moore and Kayleen Williams will take you on a journey on the writer's journey. And they will be doing a lot of more focused technical stuff on their show. You will learn a lot more on their show than you will on our show.
True.
I'll tell you that
Absolutely
right now.
Yeah, they're pros.
We have
see all the dolls in the background.
That's right.
That's a downer.
We have Coffee and Concepts with Walt. His first episode came out about a week and a half ago, and he'll be doing a couple of those a month. Those are really cool. I'm gonna start a stream, but I don't know whether I'm gonna do it at night or in the morning. If I do it in the morning, it'd be like 5:36. If I do it at night, it'll be like 9:30, 10. So I'm not sure what the timing will be on that, but we'll see. And then we also have Joshua Gayu joining the show lineup with his own brand of show where he's going to be talking story as well. But he's going to be tackling a lot about different mediums of stories, comic books, movies, that kind of thing, and he'll be doing it on a non-regular basis. And they're not going to be live shows. They'll be pre-recorded, and you'll be able to catch those shows on our YouTube channel and on our audio feed as well. So we'll keep you up to date on when to expect those. But everybody that hung out with us tonight, thank you guys for hanging out with us. It was great to talk with you guys again. To the new people, Boiler 2015, I've never seen your name before in chat, so welcome to the show. And was it Brent? I'm gonna mess up his name. I just saw it. There was another new guy I'd never seen before.
Brent Gasky.
There you go. Brent, welcome. welcome to the show. Thanks for hanging out with us. We hope you come back next week. Yeah,
bring
I think
a
it's
friend.
gonna be. Yeah, bring a friend. Share it around. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube this year for season 5. So if you can share us around on Facebook or Twitter or wherever you're at, get some new eyes on the show. We're trying to grow this show, and you guys are the
Read and review
way
the
we're
book.
going to do that. Read and pick up The Writer's Dream by Lauren Moore, and then leave a 5-star review.
So basically, part of it, I don't know if we wanted, I didn't clear this in the company meeting, but basically the book funds the show.
It will, yes.
And so so we really want it. I mean, besides the fact that we think it's a good book and offers a lot of value, it's going to make this happen, because a lot of the stuff we take out of our own pocket. So we don't want to do that anymore. We want to actually generate some show income. So
some revenue. Yep.
Shameless plug for people to recommend our book to people.
Thank you everybody that hung out with us tonight, and they're listening on the feed, not live. And we hope you guys come back and hang out with us next Monday. We're going to talk about some reading. We're going to talk about some writing and everything in between right here on Keystroke Medium Live. See ya.
Later.